All right. So I'm back. I'm gonna be talking about this project that I did at Central St. Martin's, fashion project. Um, and I wanted to explain it a little bit more and sort of go into depth into detail about what this project was about. So this project is titled L'Ombre d'Étoile. It's a French title, and it stands for the shadow of webs. uh the shadow of webs. It's a sort of like double entendre between spider webs and the digital internet web, which the background and everything. um so let's get into the first slide. So the first slide, so it says, "They're not like us, you and I." This is actually a quote from Naruto, the pain sequence. He says, when Pain says, "You and I are both seeking the very same thing. You and I are the same." No, there's a lot going on. In my initial research, we did a bunch of exercises for emotional structure association. So, like if you see fear, what would you associate? What shapes or patterns or illustrations and such would you associate with the word fear? Or the word union, right? So we had all these structures, and this was just some of the stuff. Um, but let me actually tell this. Um, so I wanted my piece to be a structure, and you can see like some of the inspiration here. Like these are more structural fashion pieces actually than um, regular like fashion wear stuff like that. Like so, I was more interested in a structural piece than a real fashion practical piece. And we had like a bunch of these like weird exercises, right? Like this one we had like just to use materials that we had at our display, like just super basic materials to just come up with structures. Um Now a lot of this, the webs, right? The reference to the webs also has a lot to do with something called social fabric. Um, and this concept revolved around a lot of the idea of the sort of destruction of the social fabric in a society, um, and the sort of common denominators that create a cohesive social fabric, and what it means to lose that. Um, so those were some of the points that I was thinking about. Now, how this project is presented is a sort of process. Um, I didn't present it like research, design, then piece. Each point of research is actually a phase in the presentation. So when we go to the piece, right, you get an instant display of what the piece actually is. Now there's a reason why it's completely black and white. Um, and as you can see, the piece is a structure, and from the illustration, like the shirt is ripped up, and um, it's like distressed, and it's sort of primal, and just I don't know. It's different. So the first part is they're not like us. That's the separation, right? Like so the next part of the thing, color is a big um color is a very big reference point in this project. More specifically blue and red, particularly because blue and red is so I think easily divisive and easily understood from people that if it's red, it's quite literally the opposite of blue. So if you're team blue, your enemy is team red, and if you're team red, Your enemy's team blue. I think visually this makes a lot of sense for people in a very clear way. Uh, and these colors are very prevalent in a lot of aspects of society, at least Western society in the US, right? We have like gang wars, Bloods, Crips, everything, the police, political party division. Um, so that's represented by the sort of division of the social fabric, right? He's one of them. So if he's one of them, like what I was saying earlier, if your team red, he's one of them. That means the other guy's on team blue, so he's the enemy. But this, I like this quote by Payne. It says, "We're both motivated by our desire for peace and justice. Everyone feels the same pain of losing something dear. You and I have both experienced that pain." So at the end of the day, like everyone suffers. Everyone suffers the same, which I think, which is why I like Payne's philosophy, because pain and suffering is the sort of like the unification. Like it doesn't matter what color you're wearing at the end of the day, you're similar in that you've both experienced pain or loss or grief on both sides. And that actually makes you more similar than the illusion of division that's presented in front of you. Right. So here we have like some Chicago statistics. And so this is when I actually started forming some ideas about the piece itself. And you can see, right, like I wanted the piece to sort of the structure to feel alive. Like I wanted it to feel primal. I wanted it to feel like as if it was taking over you. Um, this is one of Durkheim's philosophy on societies that have mechanical solidarity, and one that's has organic solidarity, right? So one is more individualist, one is more homogenous, um, in a sort of uh, destruction of the social fabric. We would fall more into this organic solidarity where the philosophy is more individualism, and that more people, like one person is this, another person is this, everyone's very different, and it's hard to find common ground or common values or common beliefs in a society like that, which mm, makes repairing the social fabric a lot more difficult. And then these are just some other illustrations I had about other ideas that or other themes that I was working on this project, which will uh, come into play, which will make more sense after. So when we go back to this first one, right, we see that it's just black and white. I mean, then after that, we see this one uh, is actually fluctuating in between black and purple, which signifies um the signification of the color purple is going to make a lot more sense in the next slide. And this was a really sort of like big aha moment for me. Um, and it just made the whole project just clear as day, like in my mind, what needed to happen and what needed to be how I should drive the direction of the project from there. So the distinction from black and white, now the transition into black and purple, right? You also see that the structure is just sitting. It's not doing anything. There's no movement yet. It's just sitting on the model, which is me. Um, so still this phase of the project, he's one of them. We're both right. Still that paintball. So now in the next section of the project, they don't deserve to live. You strive for justice, and I strive for mine. We're both just ordinary men who have been driven to seek vengeance in the name of justice. So I really like this aspect of the project because the division with the color thing, right? The blue and the red, they're one of them. It's very easy to place them the opposite in the other category and sort and write that person off. Write that person off as they're just they don't deserve to live. Like it's just very easy to fall into that trap. And what actually is happening now, this is where I like this part, but it's like if you were to think about it, right? When you go see a 3D movie, we have one red lens and one blue lens, and it creates the illusion that what you're looking at is real. Um, right? So you can see like here in this picture, right? The 3D image, this 3D image looks real. It's not real. It's not real, but it looks real. And so you have all these people who are seeing the world through a blue and red lens. But the actual common denominator here is that they're actually all victims um, of everything that they want to hear, which is an illusion, right? So that's why this purple is so symbolic because it represents the unification between purple and between red and blue that is the illusion of division, but in actuality is the unification of victimhood, and that both sides are actually victim to a greater scheme of division, um, divide and conquer technique, right? So, and this division is a leech. This illusion is presented in a leech format because, like the 3D screens, right? We're constantly surrounded by these illusions of divisions, which is why I put the dog and the cone to represent how we actually can't escape this field of illusion of division. And it's symbolic because it's a technological leech. So when you see like there's this episode of Black Mirror where I think it's these guys, they're like in the military or something, and they wear these masks to go kill the enemies, right? And so the enemy or the mask has built in like enemy identification systems where the goggles like show uh a virtual reality of the enemy, or like the enemy presents himself, but it's not actually how the enemy looks. And at the end of the episode you actually come to find out that the enemy is actually just a person. So the people in the military, they think they're like hunting aliens or something like that, but the whole time they're actually just hunting people. And it's only when the guy takes off his goggles that he realizes the whole time that he was actually against the same thing that he is, which is a human. um and so he feels like this whole sense of like guilt and remorse and all that stuff. um but that's what I wanted to illustrate, is that there's this leech of predatory technology that creates that creates and feeds on this idea of division, because the technology and the way the algorithms are set up to feed you everything that you want to hear. So if you fall into one, let's say blue, right? Well, you're gonna get everything blue. The your sense of reality is only going to be blue. And same with red, is that you, because the technology is geared to give you everything that you want to hear red, all your vision is going to be is red. Um, and those are set because of the algorithms and the technology set up to keep you engaged with the platforms. And it's like a leech. It's like a leech, you know. It's like it's stuck on you. It's stuck on you. It wants you to interact, and it takes your energy. The technology, it takes your energy away from what's real important and what you should really be focusing on. So you can see like the Spider-Man, right? Like Venom, when Venom is like leached on him and he's like trying to get it off and everything like that. Oh shit. Let me see. Wait, lost connection. Let's see. Okay, we're back. We're back. We're good. We're good. Um, okay, we're good. Oh, and that's why you see like this illustration, right? Like the thing's plugged into the wall and it's like 97, it's like charging, but it's like a leech and you see the hand coming out of it. So Now we see this this one, right? It's still a mix. It's still glitching between black and white. Um, or it's still glitching between black and purple, but now the centerpiece is actually on. And the centerpiece is hard to see, but it's like a venom. It's like a venom leech picture I found online. It's really hard to tell in there. But it's like coming alive. And so you can see it starting to wrap its web uh around the person or the victim. So in the other ones, right? Like here it's down, it's off. It hasn't really made its move yet, but we could see that this character has been preyed on by the legion, and the whole piece is all black. The whole piece is black to signify the leech and the venom. And I had to cut up like this like umbrella material. I actually made all of this piece from an umbrella and like some other thing. Like you could see, like these are all parts of an umbrella that I made into like a vest. And you'll see in the next slide what the idea was. But so you see the piece starting to come alive, and the piece is on, and so now it's starting to spread its legs, and it's starting to weave its web, which is why the name of the project is called The Shadow of Webs, starting to weave its web of illusion around the character, which was illustrated here, right? Like the cone is starting to weave this illusion, this division, this false perception of reality around the head of the character. Now, the next part could be a little confusing, but let me get into it. So it says, we are justified, and if one comes to call vengeance justice, such justice will only breed further vengeance. I know the past and can foretell the future. It is the same as our history. So the reason I wrote this is because, or I put this in here, is because a lot of times this was sort of like my own personal, um, I guess, philosophy around the subject, but the division is incited to usher in this sort of police state, right? Um, yeah, maybe we could say something like that. Uh, you know, the idea that human beings in the force are flawed, so we should get rid of human beings in the force and replace them with more smart solutions, AI, technology solutions who won't make mistakes and will be uh will be able to have better discernment than a human can. And that's a very slippery slope. That's a very, very slippery slope considering how, totalitarian regimes and everything like that have used uh, physical force and violence in history. Um, the bigger threat, more so than the division between blue and red, is actually the totalitarian one, um, where the whole thing is just wrapped around your head and you can't really do anything. So that's why I wanted to illustrate. I like these military dogs, and like if you've seen Boston Dynamics and what they have going on and everything like that, what they use to uh the products that they release in the public has yet to really see and everything like that. And I put these stuff. Jinro the Wolf Brigade is a very good movie. It's a very good anime movie. But we can see like the firing squads and everything right here. We got like a machine looking at a human skull. Um, so what happens when these sort of, as flawed as they are, these sort of human tactical forces, what happens when they get replaced by non-human um, entities who don't have the capability to extend any type of empathy, really, and sort of gamifying the process um, of creating order or policing the public and everything like that. When you start gamifying that, I think that's a dangerous slope, because a person is still present in the moment. It can still has the potential to see, okay, maybe this situation's wrong. Like maybe I won't, do something crazy. But with a machine, I think it's a little bit different. There's more of a risk there for sure. So you can see the illustration. This was like the illustration before I actually got into like the materials of it and what I was actually trying to do. And it was tough because I had to finish this project, but I was moving around a ton. Like I was in between a few places and the project was due and I didn't have all the materials with me. And so I did what I could. I did what I could, but it still turned out. I think it still turned out really well. But so you see in the end process, the whole thing is purple, so it signifies that this character is fully um enmeshed in the illusion. Is a complete victim. Is a complete victim of the situation. Um, so that's what I wanted to get across in this project. Um, yeah, social fabric, all that stuff, the shadow of webs, um, and the web, right? The double entendre of the web, weaving of the web, the weaving of the internet web, and the actual web itself. Um, so yeah, that's the project. Let me know your thoughts. All right. Stop share. Appreciate it.